Reports from Syria suggest the government has increased its crackdown on protesters by launching a massive military operation which saw tanks and troops moving into the southern city of Deraa yesterday morning. Eyewitnesses in the city say that 5 people have been killed. The US government has said that they are considering implementing sanctions against senior officials in the Syrian government. Nabila Ramdani is a journalist who specialises in Middle East and North Africa. It's a very violent situation in Syria at the moment. Can you explain to us how this violence and what this violence has been born out of?
Yes, as you said, it's a very ruthless crackdown of what is largely a peaceful uprising against a very sinister regime. And despite the ban of foreign journalists, there are very authoritative reports coming out of Syria through what is essentially citizen journalism, people monitoring the situation using social media networks, essentially, and sending those reports to major news organizations. I've myself spoken to contacts out there, and I've heard all kinds of reports, including of soldiers' mutiny, but more worryingly, about 390 people have now been killed in security crackdowns since the protests started in Syria in mid-March. And that's according to human rights activists and witnesses.
And this uprising, what do the people want?
Well, the people effectively want a regime change. We are dealing with Syria is a very closed society. It's a very brutal society where there's no room whatsoever for political dissent. People are tortured for expressing their opposition to the government. The country is run by a minority of Alawites. President Bashar al-Assad belongs to that minority who's been ruling the country for a number of decades now. And what is even more sinister about the situation in Syria is that Bashar al-Assad portrays himself as a moderate ruler, and we're not dealing with some sort of unknown brute. We actually know this man. We are dealing with an extremely westernized ruler with a British wife, and yet the level of savagery which is going on is absolutely harrowing. I have to stress the fact that Syria is now going through its Benghazi moment. What is effectively happening in Deraa at the moment, but also across the country in Syria, is what we feared would happen in Benghazi. We feared that tanks and troops would go into Benghazi and kill people, and yet this is exactly what is happening in Syria at the moment. And it makes an absolute mockery of what we're doing in Libya.
Nabila Ramdani, a journalist who specialises in Middle East and North Africa, 16 minutes past 7.